Hello and welcome back to my walkthrough to Final Fantasy 15, and this will be the last episode of our episode Gladiolus walkthrough. In the last episode we finished off Gilgamesh, and then we also took on the final trial and we got to Battle Core and we succeeded despite it looking pretty scary at some points there, but we managed to scrape through right at the end, smash Core, and now it is finally time for us to try the score attack mode. So score attack essentially is quite an interesting mode. It's much like a sort of, I guess it's quite arcadey in many ways, sort of going through essentially the whole DLC as fast as possible, but you're just sort of getting, you're trying to amass as many points as you possibly can over the course of your sort of playthrough. And it's not particularly, essentially there are there's two trophies available in Score Attack, which one is for 1 million and one is for 500,000. And there's also the final in-game item that you get from episode Gladiolus, which is the rugged attire for Gladiolus. You get that for getting your 500,000. For breaking 500,000 in episode Gladiolus. And so it's all about just a matter of building as many points up and hoping for the best. Now, this is not as straightforward as it sounds. Essentially, there's a massive trick that you kind of need to know how to get as many points as possible, because if you just run through this, you will get 400, maybe 500,000 if you're particularly efficient. But essentially you've got to realize that actually whilst the game consistently reminds you of like time bonuses and stuff like that, time bonuses are not big in this. Like, we do not need to worry about time bonuses. What we do need to worry about is damage, and the damage we get is far more important from getting essentially I'm trying to heal it, man. So essentially what you want to do is you just want to get your rage up to ×4, and you'll start doing monstrous damage. And all you need to do then is just essentially perfect counter every enemy as best as possible. Now this is easier said than done, it must be said. There are certain enemies here that are very annoying. Essentially, at the start of each area, you should pretty much just stand still and just take a beating. Get your rage up to ×4, and then just essentially perfectly combo an enemy and deal a single blow, and then your single blow should hit multiple enemies for a large amount of damage. Assuming it does that, then you'll take a lot, you'll get a lot of points, which is excellent. If you have lots of enemies around you, it's obviously far easier to get these combos. You'll notice that essentially as soon as you attack, your rage meter starts to decrease. And that's why it's important that essentially, you build up your attack. So this isn't perfect right now, but this isn't too bad as a start. The annoying thing is that obviously certain enemies won't attack you for ages. If they don't do that, then that can be a right pain. Especially because what we're trying to do additionally is we're trying to build up not only our rage meter, but we want to be able to build up our glaive arts meter in order to smash all of the bosses in record time. So the first boss is obviously the Brunstormer, or I can't remember exactly the name. But it is very important that for this boss that you do actually make your blocks. And then once you make your block... Oh, that was my fault. Okay. We might still be able to make it, actually. But that won't help, essentially, is what I'm trying to say. So unfortunately, what I did there was I used my glaive arts before they were max, and the reason that's terrible is because the glaive arts at max, we can use Maelstrom followed by Razor's Edge, and that is easily your best way of amassing huge amounts of points through this mode. So that is certainly not ideal, but we will move on and see how well we can do the rest of this. Because we have a lot of enemies here to try and combo and... Okay, so we'll just take care of those guys, and now we can... Ah, damn, wrong way. And now we can move up the stairs. Obviously, you do want to be moving as fast as possible. Doing so will increase the score that you get at the end, based on the time that you have. The timings are generally not too strict here. You should be able to get through each one without too much worry, essentially. Come on, Reaper. Come on. Fine, I'll attack you. It was not ideal, obviously. But there are more down here, and we can continue to... Essentially, you do need to sort of be adept with certain enemies, just sort of recognizing their particular... Perfect. Always good to get that last little hit. Now, we have moderately... I mean, our score isn't great at the moment. 170,000 is... We sort of want to be aiming at over 300,000 by the end of this first area. So, whether we get that or not will certainly depend on how well we face off against the Nurgle. We do now have Maelstrom available to us, which is excellent. But first of all... we have a lot of these little guys, and if we can utilize them for some bonus points, that would be great. Okay, we're going to make most of this. So now we get a flinging Duel Master. You'll see Duel Master does huge amount of damage, and we thankfully also get to hit some skeletons and some things on the side. We get over 300,000. Okay, we are more than ready to step in. So even though we did not have a perfect start with the giant snake enemy, we've actually got a pretty good start at the moment. Not bad at all. So we will race now over to the next area. This is quite a long gap essentially between battles, because you've got to climb all the way up here, then go down, then climb up some walls and stuff like that. So, got a fair while to go. Sort of like a nice sort of breather after the mess of the first. However, this area is incredibly short. You pretty much have one big battle with Bullets and Wyverns, and then once you do that, you're pretty much straight into the battle with Enkidu. Enkidu is easy if you've got your glaive art maxed and you've got your rage up to times 3, because once you get it to times 3, all you need to do is make one perfect block and you'll get to times 4, get to times 4, and then, you know, you'll be able to hit him for massive damage. So we want these bullets to storm through the wall, and then we want to be able to essentially just start blocking. So we're not getting any perfect counters at the moment, which is a little annoying. There we go. These guys could be a little difficult to sort of tell when they're about to attack you. So obviously you're probably also wondering, like, health-wise, how bad are we doing? This isn't, like, you get a lot of health, you get a lot of things throughout this section, so... sorry, throughout your run. So do not worry too much about your own health. Obviously use potions and the like when you need to. Okay, I cannot see the hell what's going on here, but there we go, okay. Again, we want to try, obviously we want to attack because we want to be able to get up to suitable levels in terms of our... damn. As soon as they go into their rage mode, so when they're bright red, it's well worth us just actually attacking them, just because they won't become available to be killed for a while. Come on, let me attack you. I would definitely say these guys are some of the hardest guys to sort of get perfect timed things on. Come on. Oh, for frick's sake. Every single time. That was too early that time. Come on. Give me something to counter. Because if you don't even attack me, then I don't even have my rage up. I mean, I should really just kill these guys now, but this has not gone particularly well. We'll have to do some... we'll have to do some more work with Enkidu now. Come on. It's because I had a good start, that's why that went so badly. Sometimes with those bullets, it's well worth just sort of picking up... Like, generally the columns do more damage, but obviously... they do a hell of a lot of damage, but they don't give you the points that, you know, other methods can. So generally, it's not worth using the columns. Sometimes, especially against enemies like bullets, it may be well worth using columns. Especially if, like me, you can't at all get anywhere near what you need in order to be able to counter these guys. So here's the Enkidu. He's not too bad. But I would like him to be attacking me so I can actually get this. So what I need is a perfect counter. There we go. Into Maelstrom. And this should take him out. Or get very close to him.
Any last words?
Okay. Enkidu sort of made up for that. 114, like getting over 100,000 in that second stage is not bad at all. The problem with the second stage is essentially, no, that's really not too bad. Not too bad at all, actually. I'm quite happy with that. Okay, so these next sections are good fun. We get a lot of small enemies, a large chance to really boost your score. If you get the chance, like, it's sort of up to you here. You can either try and get to second Maelstrom here. You can try and get a Maelstrom, which you then use, say, not in a boss, like our usual Maelstroms. Like most Maelstroms, we'll just use in the bosses, essentially. So I think what we'll try and do is we will try and get this second Maelstrom. Since I think it sounds like a great way to get us loads and loads of points. So as you can see, we now have Maelstrom. So what we'll do is we'll get into this next area where there are again lots and lots of small enemies. And we're going to try and smash them with a large number of them with Maelstrom. So first of all, we'll wait for more enemies to spawn, because I'm pretty sure more of them will come. Plus, it gives us a chance to get our rage meter up. Or we may as well just wait. I mean, come on. What are you gonna do? Fine. Attack you then. Pick you out. Yeah, there are more enemies. I'm sure there were. How many more enemies? Enough for me to warrant Maelstroming? Yes, I'm gonna say. So, gonna Maelstrom hit.
Any last words?
And get a nice big hit on that Soul of Valor. So, the reason that Maelstroming there is risky is because now we need to build up our Maelstrom once more in order for the second the first boss of this area, which is the Bandersnatch. Now, we can afford to do this, mainly because the Bandersnatch has a lot of high-level enemies. We're talking wyverns, we're talking bullets, stuff like that around this battle area. And because there are a fair few of those, I feel like we should have the opportunity to do more than enough attacks to actually get this back up. Now, whether that ends up being truth or not is another matter. So you can see we've already built up to Razor's Edge, which is... And we can use the Bandersnatch himself, because until he goes into unblockable mode, which he will eventually, we should be fine. Okay, so we're into Tempest, which is great. We'll just kill this wyvern, because otherwise he'll be annoying. And we can attack the Bandersnatch just for now. But we'll wait for him to attack us and try and get a nice block on him. Come on, give me a... So we do want to, you do want to block him, because if you block him, then he goes into vulnerable state. And that means that your Maelstrom will do even more damage.
Any last words?
Sweet, okay. So, Bandersnatch is down. That went really well. That was actually pretty good. Okay, so Now that we've done that, we're already, like, as you can see, we're already well into 600,000 points. So we've already got the 500,000 that we need. But we've still got a fair while to go to get to that mill, to get to the million. There are some very good areas around here for getting points, and this is not one of them. I primarily use this area as a place to build up my glaive arts, but I also just want to get rid of these bullets a lot of the time because they are a pain. I do not like do not like these bullets. They will often just go straight into rage meter, into their rage, sorry. And once they're in their rage, then obviously we can't actually attack. Then we can't block them. So just thwacking them with a massive column often seems like the best sort of. Okay, yeah, because I mean we're already well into Tempest, which is excellent. Coming up onto the second area, and we will just do a quick potion. Items, you do get an item bonus depending on how well you've sort of survived through the various stages. The item bonus can be very useful, but ultimately generally won't make or break a run. It's obviously useful to have it, but I would not recommend you like sort of focus all of your efforts on getting a good item bonus. So you should have seen that from this sort of, we have like 15 minutes to actually get through this whole section. And that is because this is easily the longest section. So once more, we need a stage just essentially to... Come on, attack me. There we go, lovely. Because there are a grand total of 3 bosses through the section. Obviously, we've got Bandersnatch, we've got this wall-type enemy. I don't remember his name. It's a pain, if I remember. Inanduru, or something like that. Anyway, once more he has smaller enemies that are well worth us actually taking care of. Before we go into full Maelstrom into Inanduru, and you'll to deal a huge amount of damage to him.
Any last words?
It often might not seem like you're doing much damage to him, but that can be just because of sort of the way that enemy looks, sort of in terms of how he looks, because of where he sort of is on the... Being a wall type enemy, it's actually quite sort of difficult to tell you're actually hitting him. But don't worry, we were. So this area with tons and tons of enemies is a huge source of points. Make a lot of good combos and a lot of counters here and you will get a bunch of points. Like you can get close to like well over 80,000 points just in this one room. We'll just quickly take the potion. Because we'll probably need it for the Humbaba coming up. So one of those Swords of Fortitude is raged, so we'll just kill him first. So we do just want to be a little aware of the time. We do have 5 minutes though to get through this room and then the Humbaba in the room next. So I think we're doing pretty well. So the gold Souls of Fortitude can counter you. It's always good to remember. Okay, so that's everyone down. And we can now head down here and prepare for the Humbaba fight. So obviously the Humbaba does huge amounts of damage to you if you do not counter perfectly. If you do counter perfectly, you can deal huge amounts of damage to him with Maelstrom and all the rest. So I don't think he was particularly vulnerable there, so I don't feel like actually attacking him there was actually the best plan. We'll go for the Maelstrom here and see how much damage we can get off.
Any last words?
To be honest, that's not great damage. Okay, so he's gone into enraged mode, so it's well worth us actually using a pillar if we can. Because the great thing about the pillars is that they do make your opponent vulnerable. And we'll just high potion here. Okay, so that's better. Get our rage up. Thank you, Mr. Humbaba, for letting me get rage up. Okay, lovely. Okay, 470,000 for stage 3 isn't bad. You can definitely get a lot more. We have well over 800,000 points, which is sort of about the limit at which you want to be thinking about whether you can get the million here. So we should be able to get million this round. We only need 100,000 odd. We're going to get bonuses from having items and all this sort of stuff. But the first thing we've obviously got to do in order to get there is we've got to take on Gilgamesh. Now, because that Humbaba fight was not completely perfect, it means we actually have a little bit of an advantage, because it means that we actually have some progress towards getting a Maelstrom off straight away against Gilgamesh, which will work very, very well in terms of getting into his second form pretty fast, which is ideally what you want to be doing pretty early on.
Try this!
Delay the inevitable.
So we'll go for the Maelstrom plus Jewel. So obviously Gilgamesh is full of unblockable moves. That's almost like his sort of...
Yes. Why else would you have come here if not to join the... You are strong, yet so long as fear binds your heart.
We got through that first stage in record time.
I've got what it takes.
The power you possess is wasted.
Prove it.
And we got through it so fast that they're sort of the dialogue is overlapping there. But yeah, no, essentially he has tons of unblockable attacks, and so you need to be very careful of that. But that's not a reason to be passive. Indeed, it's actually almost the anti-reason to be passive. Like, if you're passive here, you won't build up your ability to use your glaive arts. And I mean, we pretty much need the to get most points, getting another... Again, we'll just build up our rage here because it makes far more sense. He goes through long periods where he'll give you blockable attacks, which are very, very handy. And then he'll go into an unblockable sequence, and you'll just... So he should. At the end of those, when he draws both blades, at the end of those sequences, he'll usually do an unblockable at the end. An unblockable finisher, essentially. So just be aware of that. So there's another unblockable, but we do now have Maelstrom. And I'm just not timing my dodges on the unblockables yet. But we should now finish him off with Maelstrom into Duel Master. And that should give us,
Any last words?
even the 4 bonuses, should give us very, very close to the million mark that we want to be at. So 143,000 for stage 4 is pretty damn good. We have a total of 1,167,670 with an item bonus of 126,000. So obviously not using Phoenix Downs and stuff like that is incredible. We get a new Blademaster, a gold trophy for getting score attack over 1,000,000 points. And there we have it. That is it. That is the last part of this episode Gladiolus walkthrough. I hope you have enjoyed it. There is nothing you particularly get aside from the trophy for getting 1,000,000. But you certainly get, you definitely get some cool attire for beating the game. You get some cool attire in-game for Gladio when you complete the 500,000 challenge. And so what I think I might do just quickly is showcase those items, essentially the weapon that we get from episode Gladiolus and the attire, by going into not our current save, because obviously our current save we do not currently have Gladio, but just a different save that I've got of the game. And that should allow us to just showcase the Gladio, what's going on here. So if I just choose this one. So you can see we're here in chapter. This is my the save that I first completed the game with. So once you get to chapter 15, you can essentially return to Lucis and enjoy sort of traveling around and helping out all of everyone with their various hunts and stuff like that, in order to continue leveling up and continue sort of finding everything that there is. So you might see some things that are kind of post-game. That is fine, to be honest. But what's important is that I just show you what we can do here with Gladio, which is quite cool. So we'll just wait for this to load, and then we'll be able to do that. And we can show you... and then we'll be calling this episode to an end. A very successful episode. Very glad to get that that final trophy for episode Gladiolus. It's all important. You know, I love the trophies. They really they give me reasons to do crazy and impossible stunts in the games, and I really like the sort of the incentives they give me. So getting all those trophies is good. But also, I really enjoyed episode Gladiolus as a whole. I think it's a really good piece of DLC. It's certainly not got the sort of game-changing details that maybe people were expecting for the initial DLC, but in many ways it didn't need it. So anyway, Gladio. So, as you can see, I currently have a Hyperion, which is 496 base attack, and gives you an increase to your health by 310. There's a few other big weapons here, such as the Iron Duke. But the one that we get for completing episode Gladiolus is this one. We get the Genji Blade, which gives you a big boost to health, but a slightly smaller increase to how much attack you're actually dealing. And what else do we get? Well, the attire that we get is the Rugged Attire, which is this one. Essentially, it's Gladio topless. The idea is essentially it boosts Gladio's, so if you have a look relative to, say, the Crown's Guard fatigues, it raises his it raises your attack. It also raises your sort of strength, so the amount of damage you deal using physical attacks and your resistance to physical attacks as well. Whereas what they also, these other ones seem to do is sort of boost your health or boost your defenses. I think it's pretty much the most offensive set, or the most offensive garb you can use for Gladio. It does the most damage in terms of that, so that's quite cool. And I mean, if we were to try and find a battle, although that might take a while, let's have a look. Probably would take a while. That's it. Well, I mean, I would like to show the Genji blade in sort of in action. So let's go find ourselves some wild beasts to take care of. So we'll just fast travel here because it will be easier. I mean, this may well actually be a hunt that I've already done in our current save, which would be rather amusing. But then again, my current, the save on which I'm obviously walking you guys through on is far more focused on being quite completionist, on sort of doing everything as much as possible.
Really use a car wash. And then we'd best stop at the nearest petrol station.
As opposed to not. So there are some spiricorns over there that I think we can sort of certainly have some fun with. Okay, so Gladio. So as you can see, the Genji blade does look much like the sort of... So let's go Gladio's Tempest. Because he's got his huge greatsword. And so there you get to see it, you know. Gladio's DLC specific outfit and his DLC specific weapon, and that is all you get for completing episode Gladiolus, along with obviously just the sheer joy of being able to complete the being able to do the DLC. So I hope you have enjoyed this episode. I hope you have enjoyed this little mini series of 4 as we've gone through episode Gladiolus. I hope you'll join me on the next episode. But we'll be joining the 4 again, or at least the 3 certainly, and sort of finishing off that chapter that I think we were on. I don't think we quite finished it specifically. And then moving on as we try and make our very slow progress to fixing the boat, and therefore being able to make the trip over to Altissia and finally see what on earth's going on the other side. So if you've enjoyed this episode, hope you'll join me on the next.